All right. Up next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Janelle Gordon. She's back up here for the last panel, talking about the next generation.
Okay, so now I have the pleasure of introducing our next panel, talking about the future of the generation of obesity treatment. So first, next to me, we have Dr. Karen Worster, CEO of Adipo Therapeutics. We have Dr. Michael Dorado, who is the Senior Vice President of Discovery and Non-Clinical Development at MBX Biosciences. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have Dr. Ruth Jimeno, who is the Group Vice President for Diabetes, Obesity, and Cardiometabolic Research at Eli Lilly and Company. Prior to us starting our panel, we do want to go to a brief video from our sponsors.
Figry Drinker opened its doors in February 2020 as a law firm designed for clients, partnering to bring you fresh, workable ideas, a culture of unrivaled collaboration where we are better together, and promise to deliver excellence without arrogance. With 1,200 attorneys and consultants in locations across the US and in London and Shanghai, 15 practice areas, and 5 industry focuses. Figry Drinker has the relationships, connections, and knowledge to help your company stay on offense, no matter the business or regulatory environment.
Awesome. All right, let's get right to it. So for all of you, and starting with you, Karen, can you please speak to us about the innovation that your company is doing and how they're filling treatment gaps for this complex disease of obesity?
Yes, I'm happy to. Thank you. We've had a lot of talk today about GLPs, which have absolutely changed the way we treat obesity, the way we look at obesity. But we also heard from Dr. Andre, we heard from Dr. Kane earlier, that it's not just about calories in that really impact weight. It's also about metabolism and where your metabolism is. And so what we're doing at Adipo Therapeutics is we're developing a new treatment that actually addresses the energy expenditure or resting metabolism side of weight loss. And so developing a new treatment that could be used in combination with the GLPs for patients who plateaued, but could also be used independently for patients for whom their main cause of their weight is metabolism, slowed metabolism. And so that's where our innovation comes, working on the other side of that weight loss equation and increasing energy expenditure.
And MBX Bioscience is a clinical phase biopharmaceutical company. We are engaged in developing, obviously, peptides, and those peptides are related to GLP-1. It's related to amycretins. We are looking at various combinations, and our technology provides extended action, extended time action, and also provides a way to stabilize the exposure with low peak to trough ratios. And obviously, we're doing work on efficacy and tolerability.
Yeah, at Lilly, we take a very broad view of obesity, and we really look at it as part of cardiometabolic health. Our North Star is always the patient. We've been committed to patients with diabetes for more than 100 years, and we've tried to find ways to lower body weight in people with obesity for more than 25 years. So as a consequence, we really try to understand the patients and say, what is needed? What can we address with current medications? What new medications should we develop? So we talked a little bit about the different comorbidities of obesity. It's really important to us to understand, like, which ones are we addressing already? How well are we addressing them? And then as we think about the next generation of obesity therapies, we're looking for things that address unmet medical need. We heard about not everybody loses as much weight as they should with tirzepatide, so we're developing next generation therapies that would be even more potent in terms of weight loss. We're looking at outcomes benefits, the ones we would expect from that amount of weight loss, but also like the ones that maybe we can build in some pharmacology that gives us additional weight-independent benefits. A lot of people can't take or don't want to take injectables. It's inconvenient. Can we develop oral options for patients with obesity? Can we address body composition? It's really important to not just address the food intake aspect of the equation, but really look for agents that affect energy expenditure. And then we have that visionary goal of, can we address that body weight set point, which is to really why are people with obesity defend a much higher body weight? If we have an incretin, we probably lowered that body weight set point while on therapy, but can we find ways to reset that body weight set point so people don't have to take obesity medications like throughout their lives? So really a very broad agenda in obesity, and like working with a lot of partners, biotechs, academics to sort of help solve that obesity problem.
Thank you. Karen and Dr. Jimeno, can you speak to how the GLP-1s have facilitated funding and support within R&D? And has it made it an easier sell, or is it making it more challenging with so much interest even represented here in the market?
It has absolutely revolutionized the market. When I started in this job 4.5 years ago, I was actually told, don't even talk about obesity, just focus on or don't even talk about obesity, just focus on the diabetes portion of what your drug can do. And so as we've seen this market expand, it's absolutely opened up investment opportunities, opened up the market, opened up the value of the company, and that's all been fantastic. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, though, as well, because where the proven science is, where the proven biology is in the GLPs. And as companies such as MBX and others continue moving forward in the GLP space, the investments continue to go to that space. So has opened up the market for sure, also has provided additional competition for those scarce funds for funding the next therapy.
Yeah, I think the current therapies, they show us what's possible, and actually, I think really demonstrate that this is a disease. This is not sort of a disease of willpower. It is a sort of real pathophysiology. And I think it's been really exciting to see much more sort of investment going into this area. There's a lot more biotechs trying to address obesity from all sorts of different angles. And from our perspective, that competition is actually really good because it means more ideas are getting tried and we are more likely to find the next generation of therapies.
Oh, please, Dr. Rodden, go ahead.
So the engagement in this area has initiated a lot of activity from investors, and they are very, very, very interested in what the next best molecule is likely to be. So we've been finding that investment is certainly available.
Thank you. And what about the comorbidities associated with obesity? How have treatments targeted towards them also gone into the equation?
So, I mean, comorbidities, to me, we are treating obesity because it is a health problem. And what we really want to do is alleviate all these comorbidities, and I think there's roughly 200 of them. So as we develop obesity therapies, we always ask ourselves, what are the comorbidities we should be studying? Which mechanism is best suited to really provide the most benefit? And that's actually something we're really committed to. And we already mentioned the studies we've done with tirzepatide in heart failure and obstructive sleep apnea. We're looking forward to some cardiovascular outcome studies with retatrutide, which is in phase 3 right now. We actually built in a study with osteoarthritis. So it's a really important component.
Do either of you want to add to that?
So the treatment of obesity, to make it a little simpler, in general, addresses some of the comorbidities, and that's part of the treatment. Not all of them, and I think what Ruth had mentioned about Lilly is really important, for the rest of the industry in terms of identifying what those comorbidities are, what the mechanisms are, what you can and what and how you can treat them.
Yeah, and I think the comorbidities become important as well from a reimbursement standpoint. We talked earlier about some patients who would prefer to be on some of these branded agents and are not getting the reimbursement. And so I think as we start talking about comorbidities, it's really recognizing that that's the end game. The question was asked earlier about what the end game is, and I think the end game is reducing comorbidities, reducing cardiovascular death from, based on obesity. And so I think that it plays a really important role in everything that we're trying to do.
And like you all said, there are a myriad of conditions that are associated with it, and I feel like sometimes even my colleagues and I, we're not even thinking about it when we're doing our patient visit notes after seeing the person, how all of these tie together and are increasing the patient's risk for other in-organ complications. So if we think about that and then communicate that in a respectful and vulnerable manner with patients, I think that will only help the situation. Is the FDA providing guidance on doing this, Dr. Minow?
So the FDA right now still treats the comorbidities as independent entities, and it actually creates complexities because we have to go to different subdivisions of the FDA to sort of negotiate with them. When we run sort of large outcome trials, it's actually very difficult to get agreement on endpoints for all of the comorbidities. So I think there's more work that needs to be done to really sort of integrate drug development, but then hopefully also treatment of patients.
So let's bring it home to Indiana. Can you all speak to the R&D taking place right here in our own backyard?
Okay. So we have effective and ongoing academic collaborations that are going on, looking at various combinations for the receptor agonists. We have a molecule that's coming forward for IND early next year. A co-agonist, and we are looking at what the next generation is going to look like in terms of the other agonists and how the agonists can be combined in terms of various molecules, and then what's the safety and efficacy of those.
And I would say for us, we've really benefited from being here in central Indiana. So the technology for our treatment was from Purdue University, a professor at Purdue University. We are located at the Indiana Bioresearch Institute, and so we benefit from being in that space and having that shared lab facility. We're collaborating with Dr. Bob Considine, who was just up on stage collaborated with him on some human fat work in our development. And finally, we benefit from Lilly being here in town and the history in metabolic disease. And so we've been really able to tap into the experienced talent in metabolic disease here in the Indianapolis area.
And just as an addition, our major academic partner is Indiana University.
No, and I think from our side, we're really excited about having collaborations that are local. It's always easier if you can actually just go down the road and talk to people directly. So we try to really sort of incentivize innovation. We started the Diabetes Center of Excellence at the IBRI, and it's great to see how the IBRI is really turning into what we hoped it would be, sort of an accelerator of like new translational medicines, pulling new companies in. And we do a lot of academic collaborations, but also really starting to work with the biotech companies in this state.
Yeah, and I would just add one more thing. I'd be remiss without mentioning, some of the IEDC and some work that they do as well. Being a small company in Indiana, there's a VCI tax credit, so our early investors that were private investors got a 30% tax return on their state taxes. We've been able to take advantage of Indiana Innovation Grants. And so there's been a number of things that are put in place here locally that really have helped us stretch our dollar and do more than we would have otherwise been able to do.
30%.
Yeah.
That's something to market. Yes, thank you for that. Okay, are we seeing a spike in patient recruitment now that there's all this talk about obesity? We're trying to dampen the stigma associated with the disease. What are you all seeing?
I'm sorry, for me? Okay, so we are not in clinical trials right now with our obesity molecules, so it's a little bit premature for me to address that. But I mean, with the extent of the population affected by obesity, I mean, the expectation is that patient recruitment will be easier than in some areas, and I think that we're waiting to see what happens when we get our IND filed and then go into clinical trials.
And we obviously conduct a lot of trials in obesity, and there's a lot of excitement in the community, and these are usually very fast enrolling trials.
And we're also preclinical, so we're not in clinical trials yet, but I will tell you there's hardly a person I don't explain the treatment to and say there's, our plan would be if this works that people will lose weight while taking in the same number of calories. So I do have a running list of everybody I've talked to who says, can I be in that trial?
Okay, so possibly for Dr. Jimeno and Lily, what is your company doing to diversify the participants in these studies?
Yeah, this is actually something we spend a lot of time on, because I think historically pharma has not been very good about making sure that the population that's in clinical trials represents the population that actually ultimately takes the medicines. So we have efforts to really try to increase recruitment of underrepresented minorities in our clinical trials. It varies quite a bit with different therapeutic areas. Turns out that in obesity, we actually usually enroll a fair amount of Hispanic as well as African American individuals. But as we look at cardiovascular trials, and we're actually working with investigators in Indiana to really specifically target some of these communities, it's all about trust, it's all about community engagement. So how can we sort of really convince them that this is a good thing and it's in their own best interest to participate in trials? So we'd actually, for the people in the room, we'd love to find new ways to engage with you and with the community here.
And that's good. And I think remembering who's at the center of our target goal, right? And not coming in thinking we know what's best, but asking this person, how can we best serve you? And in turn, it's serving us, right? and oftentimes monetarily. So just remembering who is our target, not just the disease, but the person behind the disease. Now, what about the incremental clinical or even economic benefits of the next generations of therapies?
I mean, the obesity area, I mean, is large. I mean, there's over a billion patients worldwide. I think that the driver for that is there for companies that have molecules that they believe in and have efficacy and safety and importantly tolerability in terms of being able to go for a longer period of time in the therapy. So I think the other companies that are engaging in this area, and we know that the area is very crowded, also indicate that the opportunities there are there. I mean, they're there. I mean, otherwise, why would all these companies be involved?
I think for the incremental benefits, from my perspective, we talked about the GLPs and all the benefits of GLPs, but we also talked about, just in the last panel, some of the challenges with GLP use. Part of that being the loss of muscle as part of that weight loss. Lowering of metabolism for using those treatments over time. And these aren't unique to the GLPs. Any kind of treatment or any kind of routine where you're losing weight just by constricting calories, if you're not making that up by protein and by weight-bearing exercise, you're going to see your muscle mass come down and you're going to see your metabolism slow down. And so I think a really important piece that has yet to be addressed, and we're not the only company looking in this direction, but is on the energy expenditure side. And to say, can we either complement the weight loss that's coming from the appetite suppressant, or can we be used in place of that for patients? This is a heterogeneous disease. And so for those patients for whom metabolism is the core defect for them, Dr. Kane talked about her sister that could eat whatever she wanted. We all know people like that despite what they eat, their metabolism, either for genes, because of age, because of menopause, their metabolism has slowed down. And I think there's a real incremental benefit that we can bring to those patients by addressing the energy expenditure and resting metabolism.
And doing that with the combination of amylin and glucagon with GLPs is a very, very important research area, and it's something that we're very invested in, and we're hoping to be able to bring those again to the patients.
So we talked about incremental benefits for the companies, for the patients, but maybe one thing to also highlight is the benefit for society. I mean, obesity is associated with such a large economic cost, and if you just think if you could really address obesity and address the underlying diseases, it's going to really create a lot of economic benefits. Showing those benefits is going to be really important because I think it'll pave the way to access and for people to also be willing to sort of cover these obesity medicines.
Now, what effect do payers have on your target product development?
So that's something that's a little bit relative to the GLP and the obesity area for MBX Biosciences. We're certainly interested in that, and we're interested in what the major pharmaceutical companies are able to achieve in that area. But again, based on where we are, it's a little bit premature to opine on that, I believe, for me.
Yeah, as I think about it, it's really kind of we start with the patient and what is the benefit for patients. And we sort of go under the assumption if there's a real important health benefit that this would also be recognized by payers. And then the question is really how do we actually show that benefit and how do we make sure that payers see it as well. Again, it's actually really important for payers to recognize that benefit because then they'll be willing to actually reimburse it and provide access.
And what about comparing obesity and the treatment of it, especially with this next generation of therapies? How does it compare to that of other diseases that we've seen?
In terms of the growth?
Yes, the opportunity.
Well, I'm not really sure. In my experience, I've experienced anything like the growth in the obesity area. But cardiovascular disease, for example, at my time at Lilly, that was something that was growing and had a lot of attention, a lot of investment. But the market for obesity drugs is estimated by the end of this decade to be something like $400 billion. I'm not really sure I've experienced another growth area like this one.
I think what's interesting about obesity and effective obesity medications, people can tell it works and they can tell almost immediately. So it's kind of quite different from, say, a cardiovascular statin where you have to go and see your physician and he tells you, oh yeah, your cholesterol is low right now. So I think there is a lot more immediate feedback with how people feel, and we talk about the food cravings. I say, oh, the food cravings go away. It makes people realize that, no, this is actually not me and my willpower, this is my physiology. So I think that's one of the really unique things about obesity that kind of probably really creates a different type of market here as well.
Yeah, and I think, when I look back and say, where is this market now and where do we think it's going to go in the future? I think there's two categories I think of. I think the first, and it was mentioned earlier, is depression. And depression really wasn't treated as a disease until we have a safe, effective treatment for it. And then physicians felt more comfortable saying, this is something actual chemical going on, and took away some of the stigma, and we saw more and more people having that disease recognized and getting the appropriate treatment. And so I think that is, we're on the front edge of that wave right now. There's still only about 10% of people with obesity that are getting pharmaceutical treatments. And I think we'll see that grow as the stigma goes away and physicians are willing to see this as a real disease. The second place that I see this similar, I grew up most of my career working in the treatment of diabetes, and going from a place in type 2 diabetes where you had, insulin and sulfonylureas, then metformin, and now you have SGLT2s, you have DPP4s, we have the GLPs, we have the GLP-1s, we have all these different treatments available, and those particularly that are in different categories, recognizing that there's different aspects to the disease, and each aspect of that disease needs to be treated a little bit different, and you need to come at it from a different angle. And so those are the two that my experiences, I look back and say, we're just at the infancy of this market right now, and I see the diagnosis improving, and I see the number of treatments addressing different areas increasing as well.
And it's vital that we confront the bias, even from the healthcare professional standpoint, because so many of us are still thinking, no, it is willpower.
Right.
You should be able to do this. Why should I have to give you a medication? Or we just assume it won't be covered by the insurance, so why even go down that rabbit hole of even prescribing it to the patients? But the more we advocate, the more we speak up, the more we work across industries, I think we can help see this really grow to God knows where.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Well, I heard one of the doctors at Obesity Week last year make a comment that we need to change this from a disease of blame to a disease of biology, and really recognizing that the biology is at the heart of this. And we each experience hunger a little differently, we experience food cravings differently, and we have different core metabolism, and all of those things contribute to what people who are struggling with their weight are going through every day.
And just knowing it's not individual. We already had the societal panel, but a lot of it goes into it. I'm always talking about big food. So if we think about it from that standpoint, how can you blame one person? We see all of these people affected, and we're all affected by what's in our backyards, in our communities. Can we talk more the collaborations that are taking place here in Indiana?
Yeah, so we have, oh, go ahead, please. Now, I was going to say, we obviously have sort of your typical research collaboration with different labs. There's a lot of great labs in Indiana at the universities. We have the broader collaborations, such as with the IBRI. But one thing I wanted to mention, we're actually also just kickstarting a really exciting new collaboration. It's a partnership between Lilly and leading health science experts here in Indiana. And the goal here is to build a new resource, a health data asset, that really would allow us to sort of conduct research in a new way. And what we'd like to do is bring the breaking new technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, data sciences, to help us better understand like just patients in general, obesity in particular, and with the goal of not just having research, but also driving innovation in clinical development in Indiana, as well as hopefully also integrating it into patient practice. So it's going to be a very unique asset. It's going to build upon the IU Biobank, and really expand it, add additional genomics, and build the analytics infrastructure around it that will allow us to do all these analysis. And then we really hoping to get outreach in the community and getting more and more people participating, because we do envision this as a tool that will allow us to test new clinical development paradigms with this asset. We think it's going to be a real magnet for other companies to come in and do some research in Indiana, and then hopefully actually also impacting patient care. We talked about personalized medicine, precision medicine. This is a way to tease that out and say, what is the biology? What are these 20 different genes here that affect your treatment response? Who are the people that we should bring in, and can we identify them more efficiently? So this is something you'll hear more about in the coming weeks, but quite excited about it.
How are you all getting individuals to participate in that, and are they incentivized? Will they be?
So obviously we incentivize individuals. What we actually find is oftentimes even the process of getting into a clinical trial, you really get the best clinical care. Sometimes, actually a colleague of mine, he volunteered for a clinical trial, and as part of the pre-work, actually found out he wasn't eligible for the clinical trial because he actually had diabetes that he didn't even know about. So there's a lot of health benefits. I think what we'd like to do, especially with this health data asset, is also increase the participation in our clinical trials within Indiana. We have a great medical school here, but we actually don't enroll as many patients as we would like, so we're actually working with investigators and finding new ways. There's some structural issues and actually data science related to make sure people know about these trials and do have a choice to enroll. And it comes back what we talked about also, diversity in clinical trials. Usually those are not, the underrepresented communities are not the ones who hear about it, so how can we build relationships with physicians that they trust?
And as a biotech, I had talked earlier about the importance of the scientific collaboration we have. From Purdue University, having our technology from there, doing work with the IU School of Medicine. But as a startup also, I find that there's a lot of collaboration going on with company building and company financing, right? Doing our fundraising. And that's been critical to us. You know, as a new company, Purdue University's been very supportive in providing resources such as a CEO peer group. I talked about IBRI, and there's a lot of connections there who've helped. And it's helped us with the company, with the fundraising, and also with recruiting and retaining talent. It's not, it can be tough in Indiana when you're trying to recruit postdocs that have a specialty in fat metabolism or in nanoparticles or these very specific areas, and being part of a community like the IBRI, being connected with IU, provides that additional mentorship, that additional community for our scientists that really helps me with recruiting and retaining that talent.
Yeah, and for MBX, at our stage of development, our primary collaboration is on the scientific side in terms of the non-clinical drug development in the obesity area. And we have a very, very close chemistry and kinetics collaboration with Indiana University. And we work on that very closely. And we also have a collaboration with bone health at the IU Medical School.
You said with bone health?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Actually, I can't right now. I wish I could, but I really can't right now.
Just a teaser.
Bit of a teaser, that's right. So could you tell us more about how you all even came to starting these companies? Because I heard both of you mention Lilly, correct?
Yeah, so I spent most of my career at Lilly, started in protein and peptide development, and then moved on to the commercialization side, and worked my whole career there in metabolic disease. So when I retired from there, I was introduced to Dr. Meng Deng, who is our inventor, our technical expert out of Purdue University, and was told, hey, he's starting up this new company. It sounds like it's right up your alley. You guys ought to talk. And so I was introduced to Meng up at Purdue, and from there then was able to very quickly put a team together with the metabolic expertise that's here in Indianapolis and some from outside. So we've been working from that point to go from the lab to now being ready to do our toxicology studies.
And my career, I spent 30 years with Eli Lilly and Company, and I came here from Brooklyn, New York. And that was certainly an experience initially in 1978. But the work that I had done was in the non-clinical area, and my background is in pharmacology and toxicology. I was responsible for the toxicology program at Lilly and retired in 2008, I believe, as the executive director of toxicology, and then extended that into consulting in Central Indiana, and now with MBX.
So even for the three of you, sometimes work like this can be very daunting, and especially talking about starting a company. Yeah. So what keeps all three of you going and doing this work today?
Right. Yeah. I think we all, had the privilege of hearing the main thing that keeps us going, and that was hearing from people like Brett and Brad and Kelly, and people that this what we're working on has the opportunity or possibility of changing lives, changing people's health, changing their relationship with others, changing the way they look at themselves. And so for me, it was just a great reminder being part of this, meeting today and hearing them being vulnerable and sharing their stories. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot of innovation to be had to make these products more tolerable, to make products that are easier to take, that work for different people in different ways. And so I think that's what keeps me going. Ruth talked earlier about, starting with the patient at the center, and I think that's something we probably all share from our time at Lilly. But really starting with that, where is the need? Where is the unmet need? And, every day we're working to help with that.
Yeah, and I'm going to paraphrase Dr. DeMarchi, bringing benefit to the patients. That's really what keeps us engaged and gets us to come to work every day. And I think the patient group that spoke to us earlier, and I want to thank them for doing that, they refocus us. Every time we talk to patient groups, they refocus us as to what the objective is for the work that we do. And so I think that as we have the opportunity to bring benefit to patients, that's what keeps us coming to work every day.
Yeah, obviously bringing benefits to patients, that's what we're all here for. I think it's also just an incredibly exciting time because we do see the science is breaking. We have new tools to address things. So the idea of what could we do tomorrow that isn't possible today. Could we take some of these emerging new technologies and really change the way people experience the world? So I think there's just so much opportunity. So it's that, yeah, let's help patients, but also let's take advantage of this amazing opportunity.
Especially right here in Indiana.
Yes.
So I know it's been a long day, but we've learned a lot, met a lot of people. Do you all have any closing remarks that you want to share with us before we go to the next panel?
I just want to thank everyone for being here, and I think when you look at the size of the audience here, there's just so much opportunity for us to continue in this space to help patients, whether that's through new medications, whether that's through better counseling of people, whether it's lobbying to get additional funds and better insurance. And so I would just say let's all keep fighting the good fight on this and be encouraged by today, and let's leave with some energy to continue to do the hard work that we're doing.
And I'd like to thank BioCrossroads for the invitation to participate. This was a wonderful meeting. I had an opportunity to meet a number of people that I have not yet met, and I think that the opportunity to hear the patients today again refocuses us on what our job actually is.
No, thank you for the invitation as well. I think from my side, just really encourage everybody to engage with Lilly. There's a lot of resources available. We actually have a very active program to work with emerging biotechs. We call it Catalyze 360. We do venture science investments. We have a Gateway Labs, not in Indiana yet. But we also actually have an arm that's called Explore R&D, which allows us to engage with companies very early on and really help them make this next generation of medicines. Please bring your ideas to bear. We talked about some innovative new partnerships. We'd love to do more here, especially in the state of Indiana. And just thank you for all of your engagement.
Thank you.